Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
Folks, again, welcome to tonight's meeting. Is there anyone who wanted to address the council on any topic? If so, just come on forward. All we'd ask you to do is just state your name to the citizens of our town, and if you can keep the comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate that. Sir, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, thank you for the opportunity. My name is John Stratman. I'm here tonight with my lovely wife, Nancy. She and I own property at 1013 South Sherman. Our concern is that of the house to the north of us at 1009 South Sherman. It's in considerable disrepair, and it's come to our attention that the folks that are occupying it are living in a house without water and electricity. I brought along some photos to show just exactly what the conditions are. I don't know if they can be put up on the screen. Staples does a wonderful job.
Sure. Sure, go right ahead. Jim will take care of that.
Okay. First learned that the water had been shut off at this property back in April 1st. That was information that I got from calling the city water department. The billing for it is in the name of the Salvation Army, but there has been no water run through the meter. And I suspect that that's because the house does not have adequate plumbing to handle the distribution of water. I've also learned that this past winter, these folks were living in a home with no electricity. And the electricity was provided by way of a generator. As a property owner, mine property that we rent out is to the south of this property. It causes considerable reduction of my property value. It also removes a lot of people from considering the opportunity of living in a nice place that's been reconditioned and made very habitable. But beyond the personal financial loss that I incur, the city of Sioux Falls can do better than having people live in conditions such as this. And I just believe that we as a community not only can, but should take care of this and get these people out of this house, have the house condemned. The landlord obviously doesn't care about the property. And I would ask the city council to take the necessary steps to either condemn or evict the people from a humanitarian standpoint, if nothing else. These conditions are just horrible. And that's the best way I can describe it.
Mr. Stratman, thank you very much. Can you have notified someone within the city about this property?
Yes, I have. I called, I believe, all of the appropriate code enforcement. I even called the Humane Society. Okay. And the Humane Society, honestly, was the only one that came out and got inside the building. When code enforcement came out, excuse me, I was there the day they came out. They wouldn't go in the building under the suspicion or supposition, rather, that they wouldn't be allowed in the building. Right. But nobody made an effort to ask. And you can see these pictures were taken just, I believe it was 10 days ago.
Yeah. Mr. Stratman, we'll look into it right away. Thank you. And thank your wife as well. Thank you. Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council? Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Council, tonight's session deals with a little bit of history. Many years ago, I was in Edinburgh, and I was up at the castle, which some of you probably have visited. And when we got done with the tour, we looked back, and one of the Americans on the tour looked back and said, what about those buildings there?
Sir, could you just relay your name, please, to the people of our town?
Bob Kolbe.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyhow, we were still looking at these older buildings, and the gentleman said, what about those older buildings over there? And the tour guide said, oh, they're not important. They were built in the 1700s, which says something about us. Just looking at some of the things that we've had in our community that have gone by the wayside. Some of you may remember the Phillips House out in Terrace Park that was used to house the Lions, and they were going to tear it down, and Hazel O'Connor got an injunction and went out there at 8:30 in the morning, and the bulldozers had been there at 7:30. Or the Bishop O'Gorman's house down on 7th Street. We had Mr. Mayor, the Mike Shermer, he thought that the city was too old, so he decided that amongst others, that we should have urban renewal, and we did a major damage to our downtown, not only getting rid of some of the older properties that were there, but trying to rearrange our community. The last section of that particular part of the city was on between 8th and 9th on the east side of Phillips Avenue, and people suggested we should use that as save it as a little bit of the old town, and they said, no, we've taken down so much of it already, this won't make any difference. How many of you remember the children's home over on 10th and Cliff? Or the things that we really lost that were kind of neat, the old Queen Bee, which burned because kids got into it, as was the case with the Sioux Falls Brewing Company. When the fire got in there, it took out all the timber that was supporting it, and that was gone. But we have managed to save a few things. We can't argue that it wasn't with some effort, but the city has not been a great proponent of saving old structures. This building may be an exception, but we have All Saints. We have the old courthouse. Mike Shermer thought the best thing to happen to that would be a parking lot, and it isn't, and it's one of the major features of our community. The old jail. We took off the jail building, but we kept the living quarters on the front, which is an addition to the community. All Saints. The Coliseum. The city sold it to the county. It was my dollar that bought it. The county voted 4-1 to tear it down. We have it yet, and it was a major addition to our community. Washington High School, now the pavilion. The Tuttle House. Sioux Falls and its city fathers and mothers haven't had a strong, advocate for trying to keep some of our old heritage, which I think should be something that we do or should try to foster. The previous gentleman that spoke about a building that was not being taken care of, it would do the city good to take and adopt a destruction by design ordinance. If you want to have some idea what it would be like, Deadwood has it, but for a different purpose. But there are people who own structures, they take the money out of it, and finally when it caves in and the property tax keep going down, well, it's destruction by design, and this is an avenue to cause people to continue to maintain their property. Now, as an aside, before I leave, tomorrow is October 15th. It's important to me, but why it should be important to you. In 1880, the first snow blizzard came. There was a blizzard every month in October, November, 2 in December, 2 in January, 1 in February, 1 in March, and 1 in April. The snow that came in October lasted till April, which made for a major flood. That's another story. But that was the blizzard of Laura Ingalls Wilder. So what we might consider is, what would happen if snow came tomorrow and we had a blizzard and we had that snow last for 6-7 months? Sometimes it's nice to live in South Dakota, and sometimes we wished we lived elsewhere. Thank you.
Folks, welcome.
This is Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. First off, I want to congratulate Tamara for her accomplishments, and it's great to see Denise is trying to get there too. City clerks probably want to choke me sometimes, but I really appreciate what they do, and they really are the front line to transparency in this city, and they have been helpful more times than not. So I appreciate that, and I also would like to thank Teresa, who has taught me a lot about being a citizen advocate, and I've always appreciated every moment I've had with her to learn so much, and she's always taught me to try to be more compassionate, and she really makes good pork chops too. Anyway, I was also glad to hear Christine Erickson talk about the tipping that she was able to tip people at the new event center for the Jason Aldean concert, because at the Joe and Jet concert, I was not allowed to do that. So I see there was a policy change in between those two concerts, so that is wonderful. I'm actually here to talk about something that, there's times when I see you counselors have to make decisions, and most of the time, if I was sitting up there, I could go yes or no like that. The building permit thing is an interesting beast. I wouldn't know how I would vote on it. There's a part of me that believes that people should be able to do their own work on their house. There's also a part of me that believes that construction companies should have a right. You should be able to hold them accountable. But I don't want to talk about that. That's your guys' decision. I want to talk about the fact of the building inspections. And when I read the paper the other day, and a builder talked about how the building inspectors drive by or they don't do long inspections, I didn't laugh, because I've heard this numerous times from numerous contractors and private homeowners who have done work, that inspections are sometimes done or they're halfway done or whatever. I'm not saying that's not the truth. What I am going to say is we have checks and balances in everything we do. We all work in private business. We know how the things work, and management judges you as an employee. I'm going to make two suggestions to you that you need to put in this thing with building permits. Number one, if a building inspector makes an inspection, there should be a blind inspection later on by his supervisor that he does not know about, or she, I should say he or she, does not know about, to make sure that the inspection was done right. I don't know if the city does that. I'm suggesting that they do that, to spot check the employee to make sure that the building inspection was done properly. Like I said, don't know if they do that or not, but it's a great suggestion to go back and say, did you spend 10 minutes or a half hour? Did you drive by in a car? What did you do? I went there, I saw the roof. There's all kinds of problems. You obviously did not inspect. And there should be a 3-strike rule too. If an inspector's not doing their job, they should be fired. Number two, there should also be an inspection of fraud. Now, I'm not going to accuse anybody of that, but fraud should be checked widely with building inspectors. This has been going on for a long time in this country, in every city in this country. It's called under the table. A contractor can give money to a building inspector to pass an inspection. Now, let's not all sit around and pretend that this doesn't happen, and I'm not saying it's happening in Sioux Falls, but let's just say that it's a possibility. And not only should supervisors be checking building inspectors to make sure they're inspecting property, they should be checking for fraud and making sure that building inspectors are not getting paid under the table to pass a project to a big builder, a small builder. I mean, any builder could do it. I mean, anybody can pass money to somebody or something. And to not think that it's not common or doesn't happen kind of makes me laugh. There's been movies made about this, by the way. And I think that there should be some kind of fraud protection to make sure that building inspectors work for the public. They get a paycheck, they get a pension, they get everything. There's no reason why a building inspector should have to get paid under the table by a contractor to pass something. He should be able to just do his job, get paid, and be honest about it. So those are my two suggestions. I don't know how you're going to vote on the whole building permit thing, but there are simple things that us as a city council can put into place and say, we expect transparency and the highest level of integrity with our building inspectors. And that should be job one. Thank you.
Is there any else? Welcome.
Kyle Weideman, Sioux Falls. I wasn't really going to talk this evening, but I spoke to one of the counselors pertaining to the event center and the siding. She said she didn't care That's not an attitude a counselor should have. That event center is going to cost the city $185 million when you figure the interest and what have you into it. It's not just a fly-by-night outfit that's supposed to build it. She should care. The other thing I don't understand is how the city's going to take some federal money, and I'm all 150% for the Bowden Center. Take city money and put it into the Bowden Center. That's federal money given to the city or awarded to the city for low-income housing. I don't understand how you think you can do that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who want to engage the council tonight? Very good, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I,
Councilor.
again, need to speak because of the accusations that were made, and I know that
Councilor Rolfing, I'd encourage you to not. Again,
think-
one of the great things about this country and about the city is that and about this forum, which you folks have asked me to help moderate for you, is to let these folks speak, and then we move on.
find
Mr.
the word
Mayor.
accusation was enough. Thank you.
Except, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to clear Councilor Erickson's name this evening because I did say to Mr. Weiderman that I don't care about the siding and that it will be fixed and we will not pay another dime for it.
Very good. Again, thank you all for your service. Thank you all for your testimony, or whatever we'll call that. We'll move on to item number 8. Item number. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on.